Welcome everyone to this session that we bring to the Citizens Takeover Initiative, which has been mentioned in other panels, has the goal of citizens and European organizations toward a potential European citizen assembly for the future of Europe. And talking about the future of Europe, today my name is Virginia Fiume and I am the coordinator of Humans, a movement of European citizens that use participatory democracy to impact and shape the European policies. And today we are going to discuss with a very interesting panel how an instrument such as the European petition to the European Parliament can potentially in the next weeks have an impact on how the European Union, starting from the European Parliament, can better manage crises, starting from the coronavirus crisis, but also social, economic and climate crisis. So today we have the promoters of the EUCANDOIT petitions, some of them, namely Marco Cappato, founder of Humans, former MEP and a civil rights activist, Marco Perduca, coordinator of Science for Democracy, who is one of the organizations that gave the stronger contribution to the shaping of the EUCANDOIT petition, Iga Kamoczka from the Polish Robert Schuman Foundation, who is one of the organizations who promoted across Europe the EUCANDOIT petition, which I remember collected 8,000 signatures of support, was discussed and presented in a dedicated session of the Petty Committee of the European Parliament, and now has the possibility to be transformed into a parliamentary resolution. And then I'm very glad to have three mayors, actually Sergi Campiglio, Deputy Mayor of the City of Valencia and Councillor of the area of urban ecology, climate emergency and energy transition, Mr. Rui Moreira, Mayor of Porto, and Mr. Enea Emiliani, Mayor of Sant'Agata di Santerno. And we also have with us Pier Virgilio D'Astoli, President of the Italian European Movement. The idea of this panel is to look at what the coronavirus crisis brought up in terms of fragilities of the European Union at a transnational level, local level, and how citizens, institutions, and activists from all over Europe can connect to try and change these, fix these fragilities, and get this opportunity to transform the European Union. So I think we can start with, there will be space for questions, but I would start with a round of insights and take from our panelists so that they can all explain us how they see the coronavirus crisis, how the mayors decided to support the EUCANDOIT initiative, and how this cooperation can work and can be boosted, as I said, not only for the health crisis, but also for all other crises that we are facing. Social and economic are the more kind of consequent, but also there is the climate crisis that is kind of over looking at us since ages. So I will give the floor to Marco Cappato, who is the founder of Humans, civil rights activist and former MEP, to set up a bit the context of where this initiative came from. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Virginia. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I think you already introduced in a perfect manner. So what remains to me is just to say a central point of our discussion is that national states are not enough. This is a key message from the crisis. They are not enough because the national dimension is at the same time too small to cope with such a transnational crisis, but at the same time too big to manage what is concretely happening in our cities, in our streets, and among the population. So we have to use in a very urgent and active manner this crisis to involve all the components of our society to find solution. The first component is are the citizens, and is the citizen. Today, May 9 should have been the starting of the conference on the future of Europe. So thank you very much to the organizers of this event, Citizens Take Over Europe, because it's the occasion to discuss exactly about that, to reinforce the instruments of participation of citizens to European Union decisions. This is a key element. We are collecting signatures on a proposal for a European carbon pricing on the website stopglobalwarming.eu. The European Citizen Initiative is the main participation mechanism for citizens. It has to be reinforced. It is a very good thing that we can activate it online through the internet. So this is a key element. The conference on the future of Europe needs to be transformed in something starting to give answers quickly, not just in 2 years' time. So this is a key point. The other key point is the European Union itself. The European Union itself should be granted of power in coordinating health policies and health emergencies, and even directly managing health emergencies as a pandemic. That was the dream and the concrete proposal of Altiero Spinelli and the European Parliament. Pier Virgilio Dasseri is here, and he knows much better than me what happened at that time. So this is a key element. And then there is a global dimension. The European Union should intervene to take a global leadership for transnational and global cooperation, because faced to Chinese nationalism, Russian nationalism, and manipulation of information and the media, but at the same time, the decision of Donald Trump to suspend the funding of the World Health Organization, this means that the world could go in a very bad direction, in a very dangerous direction of nationalism and national egoism. The European Union is in the position to take the leadership to go in the opposite direction. So already last Monday was an important day for a pledging conference at the global level to find a vaccine and also treatment on coronavirus. This should be reinforced, and this is also one of the requests of our petition. To conclude, it's very important that the petition was signed not only by organizations and politicians, but also mayors. I think that climate change already demonstrated that local administrators and politicians are able to unite forces in finding solutions, even when nation states are less quick and ready to move and to change their policies. And the occasion of the debate of today is very important also under this angle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco Cappato. Next on stage, I think it should be Marco Perduca, who is the coordinator of Science for Democracy, to give us his perspective on how the petition was built and the key points and the potential for transnational institutions and bodies, but ultimately for the life of citizens. Marco Perduca is a former Italian senator, extensive experience in influencing international bodies for human rights and civil rights, and the founder of Science for Democracy. So Marco, the floor is yours for guiding us through what we did so far.
Thank you, Virginia. Can you hear me? Good.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you all for this opportunity to share some of the work that we have done in the past months, I should say, to come up with this comprehensive text. And it's very important also to try and sum up all the energy and efforts that have been put into the drafting of this petition on the day in which 70 years ago, the entire European idea and ideal started to become a proposal to set up institutions. Because our petition, which is very comprehensive, I should say, and very ambitious at the same time, addresses both emergencies that we are facing and we have to face today to try and limit the expansion of COVID-19, but is also suggesting some more structural reforms of the European Union as such, starting from enhancing its budget, the budget that was adopted last year, more or less this month, and going forward in expanding the competencies of the Union has or doesn't have today, because we are facing a situation in which the lack of cooperation, coordination, and sharing of information is not only not being effective today, but is possibly creating more problems than those that it's trying to resolve. With Marco and others, we had just ended, actually 15 minutes ago, a 3-hour webinar with members of the Italian Parliament, members of the European Parliament, the members of the Italian government, and most of all, the president, actually the executive director of the European Medicines Agency, Professor Guido Rasi, who said something that is in fact listed in our point 5 of our petition. And it said, if around the European Union, instead of having dozens of thousands of clinical trials to try and find a vaccine for against COVID coronavirus, we would have a coordination of maybe 1/10 of those exercises, but of the best possible quality in the world. Not only we would be faster in finding a solution, but we would also be stronger in providing it swiftly to the rest of the world. So what we are asking here, and the document we put together is revolved around 3 pillars. I mean, it's divided into 5 sections. Very long, very comprehensive. It would also include, and somebody else will speak about it later on, global warming and the socio-economic impact of the current crisis. But the 3 points are sharing. If we are a union, we need to be united. United not only in name, but also in practices. The second is coordination. What happens in one country should be known by the others. And so because of this sharing of knowledge and competencies and expertise and activities, cooperation is the 3rd pillar of our approach. And it's interesting that all these suggestions, despite the fact that there's many proactive members of the European Parliament, are becoming from citizens, of course. Thanks to the work that Virginia in particular has been coordinated for the last months, this is a very comprehensive and encompassing group of citizens. It puts together mayors, it puts together members of parliament, it puts together a lot of organizations, it puts together people that are thinking politically, in a way, if we can attach a positive quality to this term, looking at the future, trying to address issues, keeping ideologies aside. Ideologies, as much as national sovereignty, have proved to be potent enemies of what we can do together. And this is why we have entitled the petition, You Can Do It. You, that sounds like you, meaning all of us, you, that is European Union, but it's a you that goes beyond our borders. And with this, I will conclude. The European Union puts together proportionally a very small amount of the world population. I think we are around 7% of the world population, but at the same time has 1/4 of the world gross domestic product. We have the highest quality in education and welfare state. So we certainly need to enhance and improve what we have within our borders, but we have to look at the rest of the world. Our neighbors in the south and in the east need us as much as we need them. There's a big debate now in Italy on how to legalize, in a way, all the undocumented workers that we've been having for years and years. So being egoistic has never been a good way to do it, if you want, in philosophical way. of living in a philosophical way, but is also proving to become a potent problem in finding solution. We are asking the European Union, and we're very glad that the hearing on the 30th of April went very well, to look into these possibilities, transform it into a motion for a resolution, and come up with some proposals. The last thing would be that we should duplicate as much as possible this type of exercises also at the local level. So municipalities should adopt similar documents, regional councils should do the same, as well as national parliament. So this is really a European, not only in the terms of institutions, but also in the terms of citizenship effort that can take us as far as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco Perduca. To summarize for the audience who maybe are less familiar with the process of a European petition, a petition to the European Parliament can be submitted just by one citizen, and then there is the committee that evaluates how it should move forward in the different possibilities and realm of possibilities. But what is important, and I think what this petition proves, is that the importance of connections and creating a critical mass, as I said at the beginning, of citizens, organizations, local administrators, and this is what we did with the mayors. Thanks to the mayor of Palermo, Leoluca Orlando, we asked him to put together a declaration of the mayors in support of the strategy and the vision of the You Can Do It petition. So I'm very glad to have here with us 3 of the mayors that supported the initiative, and I will ask them to tell us a bit about, first of all, how the situation of the coronavirus impacted them in their daily life, but also what they saw in the You Can Do It approach, that they think it can be a foundation stone, which I hope for this type of European approach. So I will ask Sergi Campillo, Deputy Mayor of Valencia, to start with his perspective, hoping that the sound and the video and everything works fine.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. We are having hard times here in Valencia right now. We are confined, we are still confined here in Spain. And we didn't get to the next phase in Spain. First of all, I would like to congratulate us on this magnificent undertaking. This is an initiative which I believe to be essential in order to promote a new European Union, a union in which the well-being of its citizens, their rights in the broadest sense of the word, are given top priority. A democratically powerful European Union in which what really matters over and above the health of the economy is the health of its people. I want and need to think that despite everything, I look back at history so sad that humanity has reinvented itself. Do you hear me? Yeah? Okay. I look back at history so sad that humanity has reinvented itself, tragedy after tragedy, disaster after disaster, and has risen stronger from its ashes after its fall. The disaster that the Second World War brought to Europe and to the world highlighted the need to create organizations for cooperations and dialogue at a supranational level. In Europe, faced with the need for post-war reconstruction, we have to wait a few years for the first seed of what we now proudly call the European Union to take hold. However, the European Union has always put economic interests first, ever since it was founded. Initially, it was the economic coal and steel community, then the customs union, and then the common market. Soon afterwards, we realized that we have to go one step further, and that we needed other common institutions, Parliament, Council, the Commission, and the Court of Justice, and others that have empowered our continent to play the international role that it has now. Today, we are celebrating Europe Day. And it is today, more than at any time in its history, that Europe needs more Europe. Yet, it is not only the European living on this wonderful planet of ours who need more Europe. The world, too, has a greater need for more Europe. For years, Europe has been the very core of the welfare state. In Europe, universal health systems has been the rule rather than the exception. Europe is the place where huge efforts have been made to redistribute income, promote equality, implement environmental policies, and combat climate change with the greatest involvement and awareness. We are therefore used to facing major challenges, and for years we have put the interest of the majority before those of a powerful minority, the interest of the people before other dubious interest. But this has not always been the case, and the latest economic crisis has proved this, as we know in Spain. We have moved backwards in terms of welfare, and we have moved backwards in terms of democracy. A totally selfish, unsupportive, and unfair economic policy that has been imposed by undemocratic institutions responding solely to economic interest has led us to a situation of almost no return. Yet, the way back is not impossible. The role of the European Union and its institutions as useful instruments for resolving conflict, for meeting people's needs, has been undermined, intentionally or otherwise. Alongside discourses on closing borders or the America First approach, tailored and exported to our continent, these facts leads us inevitably to the conclusion that we must stop and rethink our future. And precisely, the biggest health crisis has led us to this moment of reflection that is needed to retrace the steps wrongly taken in the past. The pandemic that we are suffering must make us reflect on many things and on many issues that influence our lives as human beings. Above all, however, we must reflect on the need for coordinated actions, bearing in mind that political isolation and the closing of borders when making decisions do not lead to anything positive. Quite the opposite. History has taught us that when this happens, we are creating a new catastrophe for the future. To this end, we need a broad-ranging civil covenant at European level. And prior to this, we must restore people's faith in us. Europe, the European institutions, alongside national and regional governments, must be the solution to our common problems and not be the problem itself. Even so, we are aware of the role of Europe that Europe must play in the process of humanizing decisions at world level. The faith which we must not only restore but also strengthen involves reinforcing the equality between European citizens. To achieve this, a significant amount of financial resources will have to be made available. If we tackle the current crisis from the same angle as the 2008 crisis, this will lead to further inequalities between people and between countries, resulting in an increasingly unfair concentration of wealth in the hands of a few and poverty in the hands of many. We must also make progress of tax harmonization across the European Union to avoid unfair tax competition and fiscal dumping. Just as we agreed many years ago on the customs union, today a move towards tax harmonization is not only possible but necessary. If we do not become a little more equal every day, we will not create the level of trust that will enable us to tackle an increasingly uncertain future with all the guarantees. It is also necessary, in my opinion, to reroute many of the priority lines of the common budget. The health systems of all the countries that make up the Union and their social welfare systems must be strengthened, and investment in research and science aimed at guaranteeing a decent life for people is of vital importance. Research, public health, and education are the cornerstones that must safeguard our future and are therefore the most valuable investments for everyone. According to the World Health Organization, air pollution is the biggest environmental risk to health in the European Union in normal times. And the EEA estimates that it causes about 400,000 premature deaths each year, with people in urban areas particularly exposed. This is why it is not enough to strengthen European and global health systems. In the same way that the virus has no respect for borders, pollution, the air we breathe, affects us all equally. The strain we are putting on our planet as a result of development models that we all know are extremely harmful continues to put not only our lives, but also the continuity of humankind on the planet at risk. This is why changes are needed in the governance of the European Union. We need unconditional solidarity and a coordinated response. And this is something that we as cities, especially European cities, have experience with and can contribute a great deal to. Cities speak the same language. A good example of this is the Covenant of Mayors, which was launched in 2008 in Europe with the ambition to gather local governments voluntarily committed to achieving and exceeding the European climate and energy targets. Not only did the initiative introduce a first of its kind bottom-up approach to energy and climate action, but its success quickly went beyond expectations, crossing the borders of our continent and engaging more than 10,000 signatures, representing almost 320 million people. Cities are the government authority closest to the people, and we have demonstrated our ability to work in networks and to multiply the results of certain policies that directly affect our citizens in an exponential way. This is why we believe that we must play a significant role in redefining the new governance that needs to prevail once the crisis has ended. Let us take advantage of this global health crisis to tackle from Europe to the world and the new and old challenges that we are facing after our collective confinement. I believe that we have learned to value our lives more as soon as we realize that the threats we have to face do not respect borders, races, or beliefs. We need this petition to the European Parliament to be discussed and approved. Let's put the Parliament in the center. Let's put the European cities in the center. Now is the time to make a start. And as Martin Luther King said, we may all have come on different ships, but we are in the same boat now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Santi Campiglio, for this thorough description of the reality and the potential and the visions. And you mentioned a few topics that are very dear to the people in this call, starting from the right to science and enjoy the benefit of science, the investment in research, as well as the climate crisis and the need for a network. So how we see this panel is also a potential for a new coordination for the crisis that we have ahead and the solution for them. So thank you very much. I will now give the floor to Mayor Rui Moreira from Porto, that wasn't able to hear us very well earlier. I hope now it's better. He's another of the mayor that decided to support the declaration for the management of the COVID-19 at a European level. Can you?
Yes, I can listen well now. It's working fine. Thank you.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here with all of you and those who are watching us. Let me tell you a few things. First of all, I think this virus and this crisis was a lost opportunity for the European Union, and I'm very sorry to say that, because what we thought was during this pandemic crisis, it was every country for itself. We decided to shut down borders. We decided to refrain from exchanging experiences, from exchanging protection materials. We really decided to forget that we had a united Europe and it was a sort of one-man show and one-man band. And of course, when we look at what happened in neighboring Spain and also in Italy, the virus arrived in Portugal later. My city was the worst hit. We were at the center of the pandemic. We learned from the experiences of Spain and Italy, but suddenly we felt alone. We felt totally lost. We had to take action. We were fortunate to have learned from what was happening in other countries, but when we look at European solidarity, we can say it's basically zero. And I think this is a major issue, and it will remain in the mind frame of many pro-European. Portugal is the most pro-European of the southern countries. The population of Portugal from left to right is very much pro-European, and suddenly we have this feeling of extreme disappointment. I think Sergi will confirm the same. In Valencia, it's the same. People say, how can it be that at the moment when it made sense to have an European Union, to exchange experiences, to exchange materials, to exchange ventilators, to work on a common vaccine, every country was just running for itself. And this is a sort of nationalism that we were hoping that would have faded. We need a European nationalism, if you want, but not the sort of small nationalisms that work. And I fear that unless we take these common steps, that we will be in a mess very soon. Because after the pandemic, we will have, and we are having already a terrible economic and social crisis. And of course, we have the populists, which are watching on our sites. At the moment, we are very popular because we are handling the pandemic and people think we are taking the right steps. We have decided to confine, we have decided to help the citizens, but we have not been able to work on a common goal, on a common agenda. And I wonder what will happen when the vaccine comes. I wonder if it will be distributed across borders. I wonder if this will not generate new business, of course. For business, it will be very good. And already we have seen during these months that some people have made a lot of money through it, but we are not reaching those who need more. And when we think about the creation of Europe 70 years ago, the European Union, the idea was totally different. Of course, we in Spain, we were under dictatorships, but when we joined, we were really hoping it would be different. And the European Union has lost track, and now it was so evident. We have, I think that the problem is a problem of ultimately of democracy, but also of people feeling European. And I'm very disappointed because the generation of my children, and I have one who is 36 years old and the other one who is 26 years old, they really believe that they were Europeans. They were flying all over. They were going to Italy and to Spain and to Greece. And every time they thought there was this sort of consensus at their level. And suddenly they sort of lost hope, as if this dream was shattered by this crisis. But it is at the time of crisis. It's the same in our family. If my brother is sick, I'm supposed to help him. I'm supposed to grant him the benefits of my experience, of my resources, and we were unable to do it. How we are going to cope in the forthcoming times needs a more democratic Europe, and I think that's basically why I'm here. I think the welfare state, the European welfare state, and we have been, for years, we have been saying, we have the best welfare state. It's not true. We have good welfare, small welfare states. We do not have an European welfare state. We have just not been able to cope with it. And at the moment, all the negotiations that are going on, we see once again that we in Southern Europe, we are again being called pigs. They are not able to tell us because they probably are not brave enough, but that's the way we are being treated. And this is, when I see the decision between the Portuguese and the Spanish government to keep our borders closed until at least the end of September. And imagine, the Portuguese, we only have one border. Between us and Galicia here, and just 100 kilometers from here, people live in the same country. We go there for lunch and they come here for dinner. We understand each other, although we speak different languages. We have people coming to the University of Porto who live in Vigo, and we have people of Porto that go to the University of Vigo. Suddenly they cannot, because we just think that this is our problem and we will find a solution alone. We are not able to find a solution alone. I'm very concerned about transport. I'm very concerned about the airlines. I'm very concerned about all this generation of people who we told them to believe in Europe, and suddenly, when they more expected that Europe would exist, now we are shut, and there is this wind of nationalism, this wind of shame, as if because we have more infections, and even within the country it works. You know, but the north of Portugal had more virus, had a bigger problem because we had a more open economy than the south of Portugal. And suddenly there were people on television saying, oh, they get more virus because they are less educated, which is, of course, is total rubbish. You know, these winds, and also what is happening with the televisions, with Facebook, the media, I'm extremely concerned. And I've been watching very carefully what is happening in Spain. It worries me even more, as if at the moment when we needed to join forces, we needed to help each other, we have really been unable to do it. I'm sorry, I'm extremely disappointed, but when we are disappointed because we are politicians, we have to do something. We have to tell people that we are prepared to go forward and to do more. We have seen Europe closing itself to immigrants. I'm very happy that the Portuguese government legalized all the immigrants that were in Portugal at the moment. Every worker who was in Portugal, even if illegal, now has access to the health system, which is a very good measure. But we need it across borders. We can't shut each other. If we are afraid.
I ask you to go toward the conclusion because we have the other three. I'm sorry, but to make sure that
I'll finish very, very easily saying fear is the worst danger for democracy. We have to fight against fear.
Thank you so much. Also because you open up the lenses on the broader elements, migrations, borders, and so this is essential to build upon. We have now Mayor Enea Emiliani from Sant'Agata di Santerno in Italy, and so I would like to ask him, as a mayor of a smaller city than Valencia and Porto, what is his take on the whole situation and coronavirus management and perspective for Europe? Please.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, happy Saturday and happy Europe Day. First of all, I want to say you that I'm sorry, but my English is not so good and I have wrote something. Sant'Agata sul Santerno, Virginia, no Sant'Agata di Santerno, sul Santerno. Greetings to Virginia Fiume, to the speakers and to all European citizens who are following us from their home. I want to thank Virginian and
There is a problem with the microphone. Okay.
I want to thank Virginia and Human Association for the invitation to this meeting to talk about the European Union on the day of European Day. My name is Enea Emiliani. I am the mayor of Sant'Agata sul Santerno, a little town between Ravenna and Bologna in Emilia-Romagna region, Italy, near the Adriatic Sea. Sant'Agata sul Santerno is a small town of about 3,000 inhabitants. And here I have to admit that I feel very small in front of the colleagues who are present in this video conference. Rudy Moreira, Mayor of Porto, 200,000 inhabitants, and Sergi Campillo, Deputy Mayor of Valencia, 800,000 inhabitants. I want to bring you my little local experience. About the Union, in this case is not the European Union. My municipality is a part of a union of municipalities called Bassa Romagna Union. 9 municipalities, 9 mayors, who have decided to manage together the services. Together, we form a territory of 200 square kilometers for a total of 100,000 inhabitants. I haven't the numbers of Porto and Valencia, but thanks to the union, I feel a little bigger. For my small town and for its citizens, it is important to be part of a union of municipalities. In the same way, I think it is important for Italy and other nations to be part of the European Union. There are some issues that should be managed locally for historical, geographical, and cultural reasons. But there are issues like, for example, safety, economy, environment, or health that have no border and should be managed in a community dimension. This pandemic teaches us it. By applying the subsidiarity principle, we can give the best answer to small and big problems of our time. This is the reason I signed the EUCANDOIT petitions with other mayors from all Europe to tell to the European Parliament that our countries will be stronger if we have a stronger European Union. We say it to the European Parliament, but we know very well that the problem is not European Parliament, but single member states. Marco Cappato says before, national state is not enough, and I think it is true. We have to understand that European Union is our home. A famous Indian speech says, if you want to go far, you have to go together. About our petition, I love representative democracy. I also believe that there are some historical moments and some big themes on which civil society is ahead of the politicians. For this reason, I believe that direct participation institutions, such as referendum or petition like our EUCANDOIT petition, can serve to push politics to make important choice for which civil society is ready. Finally, I take this opportunity to say thank you to Marco Cappato for his commitment to civil rights and for freedom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am an emotional person, so I have a bit of goosebumps. So thanks for a bit of energy in this lockdown thing. Thank you very much. Okay, now we go from Emilia-Romagna to Poland, and we have Iga Kamoczka, who is the project coordinator of the Polish Robert Schuman Foundation. So I guess 9th of May is particularly important for them, so I thank her for being with us. And we have only 12 minutes and 2 more speakers, so I'm sorry for the time management. But Iga, I would like to ask you your perspective from Poland. Particularly, you are keen on the element of European citizenship. So I guess you are going to talk us about that. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm really proud to be here in this such a nice pro-European group. To start with maybe the reflection. Actually, it was already said before, so it's not good to be almost the last speaker, as already so much was said. But what was really irritating for us was the first nationalistic, selfish reactions of cities, of countries at the beginning of the pandemic. Which made us really mad, and at the same time in Polish media and also Polish ministers were saying that the European Union is not doing anything to fight the pandemic, which made us really frustrating because, well, if the EU is supposed to react, well, it has to have competences, and so when the EU doesn't have competences, that can't do anything. So the first thing is, like, the ministers shouldn't complain that the EU is not doing anything. They should give EU more competences. That's the natural thing should happen. So the supranational institutions should be able to do more. So 2 things, nationalistic, selfish reactions on the one hand. On the second hand, complaining on the EU that is not doing anything. Also in Polish public debate and Polish media, it was quite visible for a while. So this made us really mad, and also thinking that we need international reactions. We need to cooperate. So first of all, lack of solidarity, lack of the value of solidarity And the second thing, lack of pragmatic thinking, that today we can do more together. It's not the same as solidarity, I would say. It's like a pragmatic approach. We can't fight the pandemic. We can't fight the global warming. We can't fight global inequalities or huge corporations, global corporations by ourselves. Each single country is not strong enough. So this is like really short-sighted thinking and irresponsible looking into the future. So this was this is one thing, and the second thing, the petition really made us positive, because I think that we need here a movement of citizens, of European citizens. We don't need a movement of Polish citizens, of Italian citizens, French citizens, or German citizens. We need a movement of European citizens to say that we really want more integration, and we think the EU should be stronger. So that's why I'm really glad this petition came out here. And also what's important for me personally and my foundation, and also the civil society sector, is that the petition mentioned the rule of law, because from the Polish point of view, this is something that we lack of here in Poland, and also the civil rights were limited during the pandemic. Well, we have the rights limited anyway for a few years now, but we really think it's important for the citizens to feel safe and feel safe that their civic rights will be full after the pandemic finishes. During the pandemic in Poland, we were supposed to have the presidential elections tomorrow, and we just got the information that they will not happen on Thursday. So 3 days before the elections. The government wanted to do the elections by correspondence, but they didn't have any measures to prepare it. I will just make it short and not to go into details. Yeah. Other thing. Well, the parliament was discussing a few really controversial laws during the pandemic, and people couldn't protest. So this is really against the civic rights. So what's important for us in the petition is that it's a voice, it's a pan-European voice. It's not only one country's voice. It's a voice of citizens who scream that we want more Europe, and when we really need it. And maybe this is actually a good moment to use this crisis to think, okay, you see, we have to have more integration. And well, I represent the Schuman Foundation, which one of the fathers of Europe, who was a federalist. He thought that, well, actually the nationalism will be replaced by European solidarity, and I actually believe that, really. So maybe this is from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Iga, also for mentioning the element of the rule of law, which is ultimately what makes sure that everything that is done in the interest of citizens and human rights and fundamental rights. We have 7 minutes left, so I will ask Pier Virgilio D'Assoli, who it makes sense for him to be the last one because he was the promoter of a European citizen initiative on the rule of law. He's a federalist and is another person that contributed to the shaping of the petition. So Virgilio, I know it's you have a lot of things to say, but let's try to enlighten us.
I will be very short. So, okay, it's correct to say that the European Union reacted too late, but finally the European Union was able to put on the table a lot of things, a lot of helps, a lot of instruments to fight against emergency. The problem is that there is not only a problem of emergency. The problem is not only to put on the table more money. In the last weeks, the government spoke only about money. It's clear that the European Union, the citizens, need other things than money. We need politics and we need policies, and then money. Use money to elaborate policies. So there are 3 main risks that I see, and the petition is very good to put on the table these 3 risks. The first risk is a great risk concerning democracy. First of all, the question of the rule of law, We know that in some countries the rule of law are not respected. We know very well which countries, which the rule of law is not respected, but I am afraid that a lot of governments will use the laws that they adopted during the emergency to maintain these kinds of method and these kind of full powers after the emergency. So I think that we have to think in a very serious matter on how we can build a European democracy after the emergency. That is the first risk. It's a big risk. The second risk is the question of climate change and sustainable development. You know that they postponed for 1 year the COP26 that was in last year we had a meeting in Madrid with a failure. I think that postpone this discussion for 1 year is very dangerous. And the second point on this is that we discussed about the European Green Deal. I want not that when they will discuss about the budget, they think that there is an alternative between the recovery plan and the European Green Deal. The two things go together. They are not alternative. The European Green Deal had to become a European Green and social deal to face against the devastation, not only economic devastation, but also a social devastation. The third problem is the problem concerning the debate on the future of Europe. I saw the common declaration of Michel, Sassoli, and Ursula von der Leyen today. They say to us that unfortunately today we have not the conference of the future of Europe. They will say, the conference will discuss about a lot of things. The conference is not a play to deliver. We need to open the building site of European Union. That means that we have to change Europe. And to change Europe, the place is not the conference of the future Europe that is a body without accountability and without capacity to deliver. That is the reason, because we have to insist strongly to the Parliament to have a dignity, the Parliament. That for the moment is not the case, because in the declaration of the Parliament adopted today, they forget the word leading process. The Parliament, the 15th of January, said we have to lead the process. This word, leading process.
Giulio, we need to go to the closure.
Yeah. So I think that we have to insist about the fact that the Parliament could lead this process. Leading the process means to take in the hands a constituent power. I think that we have to fight for this method that was the method used by Altiero Spinelli in the first legislature. We need the constituent process to change Europe.
Thank you very much, Virgilio D'Astoli. Thanks for all the participants and attendees. We had a lot of speakers, so we need to rush toward the end. But the ultimate goal of Citizens Takeover Europe is really creating a connection for this constitutional transformation. For those of us who attended, you can connect with us, with me. I put all the links in the chat. And if you want, at 6 p.m., we do have a panel on stopglobalwarming.eu, which is a European citizen initiative for climate change. So I invite our panelists to join us if they want. This is just the beginning of this network, and so I hope we will have the chance to build upon this.